Chapter 9. Relay 9. 12 hours of inching through Draven's debris fields and sensor shadows had felt endless, each minute stretching taut with tension. Still, their silent running had paid off. When the Emerald finally slipped into sight of Orbital Relay Station 9, the suffocating tension aboard eased, loosening its grip into something bearable. The forced pause had been a quiet blessing. Finn snatched a few hours of restless, dreamless sleep in the pilot's chair while Amara kept watch. When he woke, he staggered to the fresher for a shower, determined to wash away the stench of Sector 7 and the chill of deep space. Clean clothes and a mug of real, halfway decent synthetic coffee later, he felt almost human again. Amara and Ellie were already waiting for him. The young girl was a far cry from the trembling stowaway Amara had rescued from the Goose. Though still swallowed by Finn's oversized pajamas, a night's deep sleep had softened the bruised shadows beneath her eyes. She hovered behind the co-pilot's chair, gazing through the viewport with silent wonder. Hanging in the black, framed perfectly against the massive, pockmarked gray sphere of Draven's second moon, was Relay 9. It was a sprawling, chaotic mess of a station. Unlike the pristine, heavily regulated corporate hubs of Apex Port, Relay 9 was a free trader's paradise. It looked like a dozen different space stations had been violently welded together. A sprawling ring of rusted docking pylons, neon-lit commercial promenades, and massive fuel silos, all spinning slowly in the dark. "She's ugly, but she's safe," Amara smiled, tapping a sequence into the comms panel to request an automated approach vector. "The Syndicate barely patrols this sector. Too many smugglers and independent miners. Ethelgard won't have eyes here." "Let's hope," Finn muttered, taking a sip of his coffee. He guided the Emerald smoothly toward the outer docking ring. "Where is she parked?" "Docking pylon 42, lower commercial tier," Amara replied, pointing toward a massive dark silhouette clamped to the exterior of the station's spinning ring. "The Iron Orchid. You can't miss her. She's the one that looks like she could punch a hole through a dreadnought." "The Iron Orchid?" Ellie asked, her voice quiet but curious. Amara grinned, reaching back to ruffle the girl's damp hair. "She's a blockade runner, kid. Fast, heavily armored, and built to take a beating. Speaking of which..." Amara looked down at the rolled-up sleeves and heavily cuffed legs of Finn's pajamas. "We're going to need to do some quick shopping. You can't walk around a freezing spaceship in Finn's old sleepwear all the time." Ellie looked down at the baggy cotton, a faint, shy smile touching her lips. "They are a bit big." "We'll fix that," Amara promised. She turned back to Finn, her expression turning professional. "Here is the plan. The Orchid's secondary cargo bay is empty and fully depressurized. It's easily large enough to hold the Emerald. I'll open my bay doors remotely. You fly us straight into my hold, set her down, and we secure the bay. Once we're locked inside my ship, the Emerald officially vanishes from the universe." Finn nodded, his hands resting lightly on the analog flight yoke as he lined up the approach toward the massive floating blockade runner attached to pylon 42. "And then?" "Then, I head out through the Orchid's main airlock directly into the station's commercial promenade," Amara said, unbuckling her crash webbing. "Relay 9 has a dozen black market outfitters and surplus stores. I'll grab some clothes, boots, and a few things for Ellie. And maybe some better rations than hard tack and protein paste." Finn frowned, glancing at her. "You shouldn't go alone. If Carver has a bounty out on us, they are looking for a guy matching your exact description And a girl, Amara interrupted firmly. Nobody is looking for me. I'm just another independent pilot picking up supplies. You two stay on the Orchid where it's safe. Keep the ship powered down. I'll be back in an hour, and then we burn for Kiln. Finn didn't like splitting up, but he couldn't argue with her logic. Dragging Ellie through a crowded, lawless space station was an unnecessary risk. All right, Finn agreed, easing the Emerald past the flickering navigational beacons of the station. But keep your comms open. 1 hour. 1 hour, Amara promised. Ahead of them, the massive, heavy armor plating of the Iron Orchid's rear cargo bay began to slide slowly open, revealing a dark, cavernous space waiting to swallow them whole. Finn gently nudged the thrusters, guiding his sleek, dark ship smoothly into the belly of the blockade runner. The magnetic clamps engaged with a heavy, reverberating thud, securing the Emerald tightly to the deck plating. The moment the Orchid's bay doors sealed them inside, artificial gravity and fresh, recycled air swept through the hold. Perfect landing, Amara noted, grabbing a heavy jacket from the back of her chair. Let's go. Finn powered down the Emerald's primary systems and led Ellie down the companionway to the lower deck. They exited through the rear cargo bay, walking down the primary loading ramp and stepping onto the cold, utilitarian deck of the Iron Orchid. The hold was massive, smelling faintly of engine grease and cleaning solvents. It was a stark contrast to the cozy, wood-paneled warmth of the Goose, or the customized analog comfort of the Emerald. The Orchid was built for speed and durability, and it showed. Finn had only set foot on the Orchid once before, for Leon's surprise 35th. They'd downed too much smuggled ale in the mess, while Leon loudly declared that the Orchid was the only ship in the sector tougher than his precious silly Goose. The memory twisted a bittersweet smile onto Finn's face. They walked through the heavy blast doors separating the cargo bay from the ship's main corridors, heading toward the primary airlock that connected the blockade runner to Relay 9. Waiting for them near the airlock controls was a tall, powerfully built woman with short, bleached blonde hair and a sleeve of intricate, glowing cybernetic tattoos down her left arm. She was wearing grease-stained mechanic's overalls and wiping her hands on a rag. "Finn," the woman said, her voice warm but surprised. She tossed the rag aside and stepped forward. "It's been a minute. Not since the birthday party, right? How are you holding up?" Before Finn could answer, Amara stepped forward. "I briefed them over the comms while you were in the shower, Finn. I thought it best they knew before we arrived." Freya's expression softened with immediate, understanding sympathy. "I'm so sorry, Finn. He was a good man." Finn nodded, his throat suddenly tight. "Yes, he was. Thanks." Amara reached out, placing a gentle hand on Ellie's shoulder and pulling the girl slightly out from behind Finn's leg. "Freya, this is Ellie," Amara introduced her. Freya blinked, looking down at the small, exhausted girl swimming in Finn's oversized pajamas. Her eyes shot an inquisitive look at the girl, but to her credit, the mechanic didn't ask any questions. She just offered the girl a gentle, welcoming smile. "Hey, Ellie. Welcome aboard." "I need to hit the promenade and get a few things for her," Amara said, zipping her heavy jacket. "Clothes, boots, some decent rations." "You want a hand shopping?" Freya asked, reaching for a coat hanging near the airlock. "I could use a walk off the ship." "No thanks," Amara declined, shaking her head. "I need to move fast and stay off the radar. But you can show these two around while I'm gone. Get them settled." She punched in the release code for the primary airlock and the heavy door hissed open, revealing the brightly lit, chaotic umbilical tunnel leading into Relay 9. Amara looked back at Freya, her expression hardening into absolute command. "And tell Jake we will be leaving as soon as I return. 1 hour. Have the engines hot and the nav computer ready." "You got it, Captain." Freya nodded, her posture straightening instantly. Amara gave Finn a quick, reassuring nod, pulled her collar up to hide her face, and stepped through the airlock, disappearing into the neon-lit crowd of the station. The heavy door hissed shut, locking them safely inside the blockade runner. Freya turned back to Finn and Ellie, clapping her hands together with forced, cheerful energy. "All right then, let's give you two a tour. Have you eaten anything besides ship rations in the last few days?" Ellie shook her head slowly, her large eyes looking up at the towering mechanic. "Perfect," Freya grinned. "Jake is currently trying to incinerate something in the galley that he claims is a casserole. Let's go save him from himself." Freya led them down a wide, brightly lit corridor, the heavy durasteel plating of the Orchid humming reassuringly beneath their boots. As they walked, a rich, savory aroma began to waft through the air. Ellie's nose twitched, her eyes lighting up. After days of hiding and choking down stale rations, the scent from the galley was nothing short of miraculous. Freya caught the girl's expression and laughed, a bright, booming sound. "Don't worry, kid. I was only joking about Jake's cooking. He's actually almost as good a cook as he is a pilot, which is saying something, because he's the best wheelman in the sector." They stepped through a set of sliding bulkhead doors and into the ship's galley. It was a vast, well-lit area, completely unlike the cramped utilitarian kitchens found on most courier ships. There were half a dozen metal tables bolted to the deck, surrounded by plenty of cushioned seats. The sheer size of the room made Ellie pause, her eyes sweeping over the empty chairs. "How many people are on board?" Ellie asked, her voice quiet but curious. "Counting Amara, Jake, and me? Just 5 of us," Freya answered, gesturing toward an empty table near the kitchen prep area. "The other 2 are probably down in the armory or the med bay. Rafi is our weapons specialist, ex-military, grumpy on a good day. But he keeps the cannons firing. And then there's his buddy, Felix. We just call him Doc. He's also our co-pilot, and he patches us up when we do something stupid." "Which is often," a voice called out from behind the serving counter. A tall, wiry man with grease on his apron and a pair of tinted pilot's goggles pushed up into his dark hair stepped out from the kitchen area. He was carrying a massive, steaming metal pan with thick oven mitts. "Finn," Jake said, offering a warm, sympathetic nod as he set the heavy pan down on the table. "Good to see you again, man. Sorry it's under these circumstances." "Thanks, Jake," Finn replied, pulling out a chair and sinking into it. Jake turned his attention to the young girl swimming in Finn's oversized pajamas, offering her a bright, easy smile. "And you must be the VIP. Nice to meet you, Ellie. You're just in time for my world-famous casserole surprise." Freya snorted, pulling out a chair next to Ellie and dropping heavily into it. "The only surprise is if it's actually edible this time, Flyboy." "Ignore the mechanic, kid," Jake grinned, grabbing a stack of bowls and ladling generous portions of the thick, steaming stew into them. "She eats engine grease for breakfast. Her palate is ruined." He set a brimming bowl in front of Ellie, followed by a thick slice of bread. The smell was heavenly, rich, savory meat and actual vegetables. Ellie dove in without hesitation, spooning up the first bite and nearly inhaling it. The warmth flooded her, washing away days of fear. For the first time since the silly goose, The knot of anxiety in her chest began to unravel. Finn took a slower, appreciative bite of his own meal, watching the girl eat. The sterile horror of the Athelgard facility and the cold, terrifying shadows in the void felt miles away in the bright, noisy warmth of the Orchid's galley. "This is amazing, Jake," Ellie mumbled around a mouthful of bread, a genuine tiny smile finally breaking through her exhaustion. Jake beamed proudly, leaning against the counter. "See? The kid has taste." Freya rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too, tearing into her own bowl. "Enjoy it, Ellie. As soon as the captain gets back, we're burning hard for deep space." Finn set his spoon aside, reality creeping back in. Amara had been gone 20 minutes already, and until she returned, they were exposed, sitting ducks on a crowded relay station. He checked his wrist comm, watching the green digits tick down. He could only hope Amara's errand was going smoother than his last trip to the morgue.